Rain hammered the top levels of virulent spire, turning the walkways into rivers of metal. The city clung to a black cliff above a dark ocean. Neon lights flickered in the mist. Steam rose from vents. Food stalls hissed, selling cheap meat to people who worked too long and slept too little. Cadvor walked along the edge of the market with his hands in his jacket pockets. His eyes never stopped moving. He counted exits, watched hands, noted shadows. Once he was security in the outer belts. Now he was just a cargo checker at the port. Scan the crate. Stamp the code. Make sure nothing dangerous gets sent to the wrong deck. It was not hero work, but it paid his rent and did not ask him to care. He lived alone in a small unit facing the sea. Most nights he ate from the same stall and drank bitter black CAF while listening to the rain hit the metal roof. Tonight he was heading home when he saw her. A tiny figure stood near a drainage grate, half hidden by steam. Her skin was lilac, slick with rain. Her hair, bright yellow, hung in rough strands across her forehead. Bare feet on wet metal. Thin arms wrapped around a dented can of fruit syrup like it was the last thing she owned. Two men spotted her at the same time. Dock rats. The kind who hunted anyone small or alone. Their clothes were stained. One had a long coat held together with silver tape. Both wore hungry smiles. They drifted toward the girl like they had all the time in the world. Kate stopped walking. His gut tightened. His brain told him to keep going. This was not his problem. No badge. No orders. No backup. Just a tired man and a city that did not care. He almost listened. Then he saw the girl's eyes. Wide. Trapped. Not surprised. Like she already knew what came next. Something heavy in his chest pushed back against every excuse. His fingers let go of the warm CAF cup. It dropped into a puddle and floated there. He stepped forward. The two men turned at the sound of his boots. Move along, the taller one said. We're just talking. Talk somewhere else, Cade replied. The shorter man's knife snapped open. He swung it in a lazy arc, testing distance. Cade's body moved before his mind did. One step inside the swing. His forearm knocked the knife aside. His elbow smashed into the short man's jaw. The man dropped. The tall one cursed and lunged. Steel flashed. White-hot pain punched into Cade's ribs. Air left his lungs in a grunt. He twisted, driving his shoulder into the man's chest. The blade tore along his side as he turned. A second hit. He forced his legs to hold. Slammed his boot into the attacker's knee. Shoved both men away from the girl. For a heartbeat they stared at him, seeing the blood soaking his shirt. Then they ran, vanishing into the maze of stalls. The rush faded fast. Warmth spread across Cade's side, thick and heavy. Each breath was a knife. The lights blurred. The sounds of the market turned distant. The little alien girl was still there. She had not moved. She only clutched the can tighter, eyes fixed on the red on his hand. Go, he told her, voice rough. Find someone. Stay near people. No one helps, she whispered. He almost laughed. It sounded too true. Then keep knocking on doors, he said. One will open. His knees gave out. He sank to the wet metal, vision shrinking to a tunnel of light and rain. Small fingers gripped his sleeve. Gentle. Desperate. It was the last thing he felt before the darkness took him. Cade woke to darkness and a soft humming sound. For a moment he thought he was still in the alley, bleeding into the rain. But the air smelled clean. Sharp. Like antiseptic mixed with warm broth. A cool breeze touched his face. He blinked until the shapes around him sharpened. He was in his own apartment. His jacket hung on the hook. His boots sat neatly near the door. His small heater glowed faintly beside the wall. Cade tried to sit, and pain shot through his ribs like fire. Bandages. White and clean. Wrapped tightly around his side. Someone had used proper med gel too. Not street patches. Real supplies. A soft voice spoke from his left. You shouldn't move yet. He turned. Two alien women stood beside his bunk. They had the same lilac skin as the girl. The same golden eyes that caught the dim blue light and reflected it like liquid metal. Their hair hung long and yellow, damp from the rain. They looked related, but not the same age. The taller woman wore a short indigo skirt and a simple gray top. Calm eyes. Tired shoulders. The other one, shorter but stronger, wore a patched amber dress. Her posture was defensive, like someone ready to bolt if things turned bad. Between them, curled under a blanket on the floor, slept the little girl from the alley. Cade's voice came out rough. You brought me here. The taller woman nodded. You dropped your ident tag. We followed the address. You lost too much blood, the shorter one added. We had to act fast. Cade looked from one to the other, trying to understand. You risked everything, he said. The taller woman smiled softly. She wouldn't leave you. Cade's eyes moved to the girl. Even asleep, her hands still gripped the dented fruit syrup can. He let out a slow breath. I owe you. The shorter woman shook her head. No. You saved her. We balanced it. He studied them. Their clothes were worn. Their eyes carried the look of people who never stopped moving, because stopping meant trouble. You don't live on this tier, he said quietly. We move, the shorter woman replied. Work. Sleep. Move again. The taller woman stepped forward and checked his bandage with gentle, skilled fingers. The wound is clean, she said. You'll walk in 2 days. Maybe 3. Do not tear it open. Cade raised a brow. You're trained. Enough to keep people alive, she said simply. He nodded once. Then I'll listen. The shorter one crossed her arms. Good. Because you're stubborn. He glanced around the room. Fresh towels folded, stew warming on his stove, blankets laid out neatly. They had settled in like they'd done it before. Not because they wanted to stay, because they had nowhere else. Thank you, he said quietly. The taller woman's expression softened. The shorter one didn't answer. Outside, rain tapped lightly against the window. Soft. Steady. Inside, Cade leaned back, feeling the weight of survival and something he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't alone. Morning light crept through the blinds, pale and thin, cutting soft lines across the small apartment. Cade woke to the sound of something clattering gently in the kitchen. For a moment, he forgot he was injured. Then the sharp pull in his ribs reminded him fast. He pushed himself up slowly. Lyra, the little girl, was awake, wrapped in a blanket, chewing on a small piece of flatbread. Her hair stuck up in uneven spikes, and crumbs covered half her face. Across the room, the older alien woman, Lessa, stood over a pot, stirring something thick and steaming. Her movements were small and precise, like she had trained her hands to stay quiet. The patched halter top she wore last night had been repaired already. Wire held the strap together perfectly. The other woman, Nira, sat on the floor beside the child, cross-legged, wearing one of Cade's old shirts. It hung too big on her, slipping off one shoulder. She had washed the dried blood from her arms. She looked cleaner, softer, but her eyes stayed sharp. When she noticed him awake, she spoke without emotion. You're still breathing. Cade coughed a dry laugh. Sorry to disappoint. A faint smirk crossed her face. Would have been a waste of medgel if you stopped. Lessa turned from the stove. You should eat soon. I made torin root stew. It's not much, but it's warm. Cade tried sitting fully up. Pain shot down his side, forcing him to freeze. His breath hissed out between clenched teeth. Nira stood instantly, no hesitation, and pressed one hand on his shoulder to steady him. Stop moving like you're made of steel, she said. Her fingers were firm. Strong. You're not. I know, he murmured. Just need to sit. She helped him shift, not gently, but efficiently. Cade spotted a fresh bruise across her thigh. Dark. Large. Probably from dragging him through the rain. You carried me here, he said quietly. Nira shrugged. Lessa took your feet. I got the heavy end. Lessa ladled stew into a cracked bowl and set it near him. Lessa ladled stew into a cracked bowl and set it near him. You're lucky the lock scanned, she said. Your ident tag was soaked, but the system read it anyway. Cade blinked. You used my access code? You were dying, Nira shot back. We weren't going to ask first. He took his first bite. The stew was salty, thick, and surprisingly good. Tastes better than it looks. Lessa smiled faintly. We used to cook for the workers back home, before the plant shut down. What plant, he asked. Nira answered, voice flat. Tier 3 assembly line. Pulse batteries. Closed 6 months ago. They said our kind slowed production. Better to use drones. A heavy silence fell. Cade lowered his spoon. He'd seen enough systems replace people to know that look in their eyes. You've been on the streets since then, he said. Nira shot him a hard glare. You asked too many questions for someone held together by bandages. I'm trying to understand who saved my life. Her jaw tightened. We didn't save you. We just didn't let you die. At that, Lyra tugged gently on Nira's sleeve. He said thank you, the girl whispered. Nira froze for a moment, then exhaled. Yeah, she muttered. I heard. Cade leaned back. So what now? You stay until I can walk. Lessa nodded. 2 or 3 days. Then we move on. Where? Nira snorted. Anywhere the lights, don't ask questions. Cade studied them all, the tired strength in Les's eyes, the hard caution in Nira's, the quiet hope in Lyra's. They weren't criminals, just people with nowhere left to go. You don't have to rush out, he said quietly. Patrols will be thick today. You go outside without papers, you get thrown in holding. Nira narrowed her eyes. You offering charity? I'm offering common sense. Lessa nodded quietly. He's right. We stay until he can walk. Nira wanted to argue. He could see it. But she didn't. Instead, she fixed Lyra's blanket and muttered, Fine. We're guests. The girl looked up with tired eyes. Is he nice? She asked softly. Nira's lips twitched. Too early to tell. For the first time in years, Cade almost smiled. The room felt warm. Alive. Maybe it was the stew. Maybe it was the voices. Or maybe, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't just someone passing through the world. He was someone worth saving. By the third day, the storms finally stopped. A pale blue haze hung over Virulent Spire, coating the metal terraces like thin frost. Water dripped from pipes. The city smelled of wet steel, fried food, and new beginnings. Cade woke to the hiss of a kettle and the soft clatter of pans. His ribs ached, but the pain was no longer sharp. The wound had sealed well. Lessa's medical work was cleaner than most licensed clinics. She stood at the counter, flipping pieces of torn meat in a small pan. Oil crackled. Steam curled around her face. Nira sat near the door, cross-legged, stitching a rip in Lyra's tunic. A needle between her teeth. The child sat beside her, tracing circles on the floor with her stylus. For a moment, the room felt like a home. And that scared Cade more than the knife wounds. He pushed himself up, wincing. Nira didn't look up. You heal fast for a human stabbed twice. Been through worse, he muttered. Lessa glanced over, half curious, half worried. Then you've lived a hard life. He didn't argue. She handed him a plate, warm and fragrant. Eat slow. You still move like you're carrying a broken crate. After a few bites, Cade leaned back. You too. Seem used to taking care of people. Nira let out a short laugh. Not people. Each other. Everyone else just gets in the way. Lyra looked up. He's not in the way. Cade froze. Those words sank deeper than any blade. He swallowed. No, I'm not. Silence softened the room. After breakfast, Lessa cleaned the dishes. Nira finished stitching the tunic. Lyra played near the heater. Cade moved as slowly as his ribs allowed. You can stay another night, he said casually. Patrols won't notice 3 extra people on this floor. Lessa's brows furrowed. You'd risk your record for us? It's just paperwork, he said. And I've seen the system punish people for less. Nira narrowed her eyes. Why? He stared at the scratched floor, thinking. Because I don't like watching the city chew up people who are still trying. Her expression changed, just slightly. Not softer, but less guarded. You talk like someone who knows the system from the inside, she said. Cade hesitated. Outer belt security. Before that, port contract defense. Lessa paused mid-wipe. Military. Not officially. He shrugged. Convoy patrols. Station riots. Mining disputes. You learn when to step in and when to ignore orders. Nira's gaze sharpened. And when did you learn to take knives for strangers? He met her eyes. The day I got tired of watching good people bleed. A heavy quiet settled. Lessa broke it. We should find another place tomorrow. Tier 6 shelters. Safer than hiding. Cade shook his head. You think that's safer? No, she admitted softly. But running forever isn't a life. He rubbed his forehead, frustrated. You helped me. I'm returning the favor. That's all. Nira stood, crossing her arms. That's not all. You took a blade for one of us. We don't forget that. Lyra tugged Nira's sleeve. Are we leaving? No, Cade said firmly. The girl relaxed, curling back into her blanket. Cade pushed to his feet slowly. I need to check in at the docks today. They'll flag my shift if I vanish. Lessa frowned. You shouldn't walk that far. I'll manage. Nira stood too. Not alone. He blinked. Sorry. You limp like a tired old mech, she said calmly. Someone has to watch your back. He hesitated. You trust me enough for that. You trust us enough to leave us with your door unlocked, she replied. Call it even. Lessa handed him a small pouch. Bandage refill. Antiseptic patches. Cade took it. Thank you. By the time he stepped out the door, Nira was already pulling on her patched jacket. Stay close, he told her. She smirked. Don't worry, hero. You fall. I'll drag you home again. They walked side by side down the metal walkway. The market buzzed below. Ozone and frying spices filled the air. Workers rushed between stalls. Cargo bots hummed past. For the first time since the alley, Cade felt the world moving normally again. He slowed when they passed a food vendor. Nira stopped too. She bought 2 skewers of grilled meat, handing one to him and one to a small child hiding under a tarp. "You do this often?" Cade asked. "Feed strays." Nira's smile was thin. "Only the ones who remind me of me." Cade chewed the meat and said nothing. But inside, something shifted. He wasn't sure what it was, only that it felt dangerous and good. Evening rolled across Virulent Spire like a slow tide of neon light. By the time Cade returned from the docks, with Nira half-shadowing him to make sure he didn't collapse, the apartment felt warmer than the day before. Almost lived in. Lessa was stirring a pot of stew, steam floating around her like a soft veil. Lyra had built a fort out of folded blankets near the heater, her syrup tin tucked inside like a treasure. Nira leaned against the doorframe as if she owned the space, arms crossed, watching everything at once. "You survived," she said, voice dry. "Barely." He tossed the empty lunch basket onto the table. Lessa noticed immediately. "You finished the food." "Every bit," he said. She smiled. "Then I'll cook again tomorrow." Nira rolled her eyes. "Tell him it was my idea to bring it to him." "I figured you'd say that yourself," Cade replied. Nira's smirk softened, just a little. Dinner was quiet but warm. Plates clinked. Lyra giggled. Lessa hummed softly. Nira sliced roots with the little knife she always kept tucked at her hip. For a moment, no one felt like they needed to run. After eating, Cade sat at the table cleaning a broken lock plate from the docks. It was a habit he never dropped. Fix something, keep his hands busy, calm his thoughts. Across from him, Nira peeled boiled roots. Each strip hit the bowl with a soft thump. "You didn't tell us what the inspectors asked today," she said suddenly. Cade didn't look up. "Nothing unusual. Just confirming my medical leave." "They didn't ask about us?" "No." Nira raised an eyebrow. "You expect me to believe that?" "I told them nothing," he said calmly. "Why would they ask?" She shrugged, but tension tugged at her shoulders. "Because it's strange. A human letting 3 undocumented aliens sleep under his roof." Lessa frowned. "Nira." "What?" "I'm not wrong." Cade set down the tool and met her eyes. "I'm not everyone," he said quietly. Silence settled like a weight. Lessa spoke first, voice soft but firm. "We don't want trouble for you." "You're not trouble," Cade replied. Nira gave a low, humorless laugh. "You say that like you've never seen the system chew up people for less." "I have," he said. "That's why I'm not letting it happen again." His words hung in the air, heavy and real. Lyra crawled onto the bunk, yawning. "Are we staying?" Cade crouched beside her. "Yes." The child smiled sleepily and curled into her blanket. Night deepened. The heater hummed gently. The city lights pulsed through the window. Lessa washed dishes with quiet motions. Cade fixed another piece of metal. Nira stretched out on the floor mat, arms behind her head, watching him. "You talk like someone who lost a war," she murmured. He didn't look up. "Maybe I did." "What happened?" He hesitated, then answered. "Convoy job. Pirates hit us. Command told us to fall back. Protect the contract, not the people." He swallowed hard. "We watched families burn because a file said non-essential. I tried to stop it. They called it insubordination." Lessa paused mid-scrub, her eyes softening. Nira stared at him. No smirk this time. Only quiet understanding. "So you left?" she said. "No," he whispered. "I couldn't stay." A long silence followed. Finally, Nira sat up. "You know helping us could put you back on their radar." "I know." "You'll risk everything?" "For you 3, he said. "Yes." Lessa froze. Nira blinked. Air thickened. Cade didn't look away. He meant every word. Lyra whispered from the bunk, barely awake. "We're safe here, right?" Cade walked over, pulling the blanket around her small shoulders. "Yes," he said softly. "You are." He sat back, letting the quiet settle around him. Warm, fragile, real. For the first time, the apartment didn't feel temporary. It felt like something he hadn't had in a long time. A place worth fighting for. Dawn washed over Virulent Spire in soft gold, lighting the metal decks like warm glass. The storm season was finally over. No thunder, no rain, just the quiet hum of machines waking up for another long day. Inside the apartment, the routine had begun to feel familiar. Lessa cooked over the small burner, humming under her breath. The smell of Torin broth and fried roots filled the air. Lyra sat on the floor drawing crooked stars on a scrap of carton. Nirax stood by the window, arms folded, watching cranes move across the sea docks below. Her long yellow hair caught the sunlight, shimmering like gold threads. Cade sat at the table with his data slate, pretending to read inspection logs. He wasn't reading. He hadn't slept well. Not after yesterday. The registry sweep. The warning. The small spark of fear in Les's voice when she asked if they would be taken away. He hadn't forgotten any of it. Nirax glanced over her shoulder. You've been staring at that same line for 10 minutes. Cade exhaled, thinking, you always think like you're preparing for a war. I've lived enough to know peace doesn't last unless someone protects it. Lessa turned from the pot. You don't have to protect everything alone. He gave her a small, tired smile. You should tell that to my instincts. Lyra crawled up beside him, resting her head on his arm. Are we safe today? His chest tightened, just a little. Yes. She relaxed immediately. Children believed easily. Adults did not. After breakfast, he pulled on his jacket. Lessa placed a bowl of food in front of him first. Eat. You need strength. He obeyed. The broth was rich, simple, grounding. Nirax leaned on the counter, watching him. You're going to the docks again? Just a few hours. You're pushing too fast, she argued. I can handle it. She shook her head. You say that like you won't break again. A pause. Cade set the bowl down. If I break, you'll patch me. That actually made her laugh. A rare sound, short, rough, but real. He left for his shift, promising to return before evening cycle. The market was loud again. Vendors shouted. Cargo bots beeped. The smell of spice, oil filled the air. Everything felt too normal for how heavy his thoughts were. Hours passed before he headed back home. When he opened the apartment door, he froze. The room was spotless. Blankets folded. Tools arranged. Dishes washed. Floor wiped clean. Even the walls looked scrubbed. Lessa stood near the sink, wiping down the counter. Nirax leaned on the table with her arms crossed. Lyra peeked out from behind the heater, holding her syrup tin tightly. We cleaned, Lessa said. Cade blinked. Why? Nirax held up his data slate, the screen glowing with the registry notice he'd left open. You think we can't read? She asked. He sighed. You weren't supposed to see that. Too late, she said. They're checking households. Soon. If they see us here. They won't, Cade said firmly. How? Lessa whispered. Cade walked to the table, thumb hovering over the slate. I filed something today, he said quietly. Something that makes you official. Nirax narrowed her eyes. Official how? He turned the slate around. Names glowed on the screen. His. And 3 new ones. Nirax Voss. Lessa Voss. Lyra Voss. Registered dependents. Linked to his permit. Approved. Lessa gasped softly, covering her mouth. Lyra peeked up at the screen, eyes wide. Nirax didn't move. She just stared at him. You registered us under your household, she said. Yes. You know what that means. Her voice was low, unsteady. If they come asking, they'll find family, Cade said. Silence crashed over the room. Lessa's eyes filled, though she hid it by turning away. Lyra climbed onto the bunk, hugging her tin with a small, hopeful smile. But Nirax, she stepped closer, very slowly. You risked everything, she whispered. For you, Cade replied. Her breath hitched. Not fear. Something else. Something she had not allowed herself to feel in a long time. You stupid human, she said softly. You don't even realize what you've done. Cade held her gaze. I know exactly what I've done. She swallowed hard. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Not a smirk. Not mocking. A real smile, warm and shaken. For the first time, she whispered, we belong somewhere. Cade looked at all 3 of them. The quiet medic, the fierce protector, the small girl who had changed everything. I won't let the spire take you, he said. Lessa stepped closer. Then we stay? Cade nodded once. We stay. Nirax breathed out slowly. Then this is home now. The city hummed outside. A quiet wind blew across the walkways. Inside, 4 people stood together. Not strangers. Not temporary guests. A family formed by accident and sealed by choice. Night settled over Virulent Spire in calm, gentle waves. No storms. No alarms. Only the soft glow of neon lights drifting across the metal decks like faint stars. The air smelled of warm sea wind and distant food stalls. For the first time in days, The city felt quiet. Inside the apartment, the heater hummed softly. Lyra slept curled on the bunk, her syrup tin tucked under her chin like a safety talisman. Lessa stitched a torn sleeve with careful hands, her humming barely above a whisper. Nira sat by the window, knees pulled up, watching the lights stretch across the dark ocean. Cade leaned against the table, one leg stretched out, his ribs aching but steady. His eyes kept drifting to the names glowing on his data slate. Nira Voss, Lessa Voss, Lyra Voss. Their names, linked to his, accepted into the registry. They existed now, officially. He still couldn't believe how easy the system made it. A single approval, a single unchecked form. It felt like cheating fate. Nira broke the silence. "You ever think life would turn out like this?" she asked quietly, still staring at the lights. "No," Kate admitted. "I thought I'd grow old alone, checking crates and drinking cheap CAF." She snorted. "Romantic. It worked for me. Until we showed up," she said. He smiled. "You didn't give me much choice." She rolled her eyes, but didn't hide her grin. Across the room, Lessa set down her sewing and approached them. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from something deeper, something that looked like hope trying to grow after years of being crushed. "We can really stay?" she asked softly. Cade nodded. "As long as you want." Her shoulders relaxed, the tension melting away. "Then maybe things can be better now." Lyra stirred on the bunk, blinking sleepily. "Are we safe forever?" Nira moved to her immediately, brushing her hair back. "We're safe today," she said. "Tomorrow too. After that, we'll see." Kate stepped closer. "You don't have to run anymore. Not from patrols. Not from shelter lines. Not from anyone." The child smiled and rolled over, falling asleep again in seconds. A quiet peace settled across the room. Hours later, when most of the city slept, Cade stood by the window, watching lights flicker across the water. Nira approached silently, leaning beside him. "You did something impossible, you know," she murmured. "What?" "Paperwork," he teased. She nudged him with her shoulder. "No. You gave people like us a place to breathe. That's rare. Dangerous. Worth it," he said simply. Her voice softened. "You saved my sister's daughter. You opened your door. You gave us names. You gave us something to lose." She paused, swallowing hard. "And something to protect." He turned to her. "I didn't do it for thanks." "I know," she whispered. "That's why it matters." For a long moment, they stood in silence. The window reflected their shapes, human and alien, tired and stubborn, but standing side by side. Then Nira said something she never imagined she'd say. "Welcome to the family, Cade." He blinked. "I thought you were joining mine." "We're merging," she said with a smirk. "Deal with it." He laughed quietly, the sound rough but warm. "Fine. But no running." "No running," she agreed. Behind them, Lessa watched with soft eyes. Lyra breathed peacefully in her sleep. The small apartment, once cold, once empty, felt full, real, alive. A few days later, as the evening breeze drifted in, something new happened. A knock. Not a patrol knock. Not a warning knock. A gentle one. Cade opened the door and found an older human woman holding a covered basket. "I'm your neighbor," she said kindly. "Saw your new household registry. Thought I'd welcome you." Cade froze, stunned. Nira stepped forward without fear. "We're new here," she said carefully. The neighbor smiled. "Then welcome, all of you." She handed the basket over, warm bread, still steaming. Cade bowed his head. "Thank you." As the neighbor left, Nira whispered, "This city has never welcomed us before." "Then maybe," Cade said softly, "we're changing it." That night, the four of them sat around the table, sharing warm bread and broth. Lyra laughed loudly. Lessa smiled brighter than she had in years. Nira leaned back, looking at Cade with something close to pride. And Cade realized something. He wasn't fighting for strangers anymore. He was fighting for his family. Outside, the ocean rolled steady. The spire lights glowed. The world kept moving. Inside that small room, a life, unexpected, fragile, and beautiful, had finally begun.